Good evening, multitudes. Here we go again. This is installment 3 of my series Nobody Listened on the Jerseybraska channel. Today we're going to build on some of the ideas that we've explored in the prior episodes and talk about why uploading is not the same as promoting. And I'm also going to weave into my presentation today a response to another viewer that had a very interesting point. So let's get down to it. For the past 20 years, I uploaded my music everywhere I could think of. First to our own band's website, which we eventually discontinued, having no success with that, and then uploaded music to various sites like SoundCloud and Reverb Nation, and then YouTube, and then we used DistroKid to publish our music across all the streaming services. Now, if I look at my current rate of revenue from streaming, I might actually break even on my last project alone in about 239 years. But I digress. I thought I was putting my music out there for people to find it. But what I really did is I put my music way out there into a void where no light is going to shine upon it, and its gravitational pull is not going to attract anything to revolve around it, no heavenly bodies or anything of that nature. Well, I can get in trouble for a comment like that. Anyhow, so now what? I spent all this money and time and effort on making the best music I possibly could, and I didn't have any time or energy or budget left to do any serious promotion. Like, what am I going to do? Put out ads, do spam, do a publicity stunt, playing live we'll talk about in the next episode. But I thought that was somebody else's job. I did the hard part. I created the product. Now somebody needs to push that product, and then I'll cut you in on the profits, But I could never find anybody to take that deal. So here I am. Now, a commenter on my last video named Sonic Milk made a very interesting remark that stuck in my head, and I've been thinking a lot about it. And very simply, he said, the trick to making it in music is to make it cool to like your band. Wow, I never really thought about that. You want to be cool when you get on stage, and you want to have a rapport with the audience, and you want to get a thing going. And I never was really image conscious, as you can tell. But what he said really resonated in other ways, because I spent time thinking promotion meant all of these things, but maybe promotion is something else. Maybe it's about creating a sense of identity around the work. Let me explain. Now, I'm thinking about my response to Social Milk. Terms like social identity and cultural momentum were entering my head, and what was I thinking about? Well, I was thinking about the fact that, a lot of times you discover music because you discover the person or the group that's making the music, and you identify in some way with their point of view, what they stand for, what they're singing about, and that allows you to discover whole genres of music and bands within that genre, and it kind of grows from there. And maybe that's part of what I was lacking. I mean, I think I have a pretty strong point of view about things. I've lived a long time. I have a lot of experiences and a lot of good stories to tell. But none of that was really coming to the forefront when I was presenting my music. All people heard was, yeah, okay, that's an okay song. Great, next. So I was born in the 60s, but I grew up in the 70s, and I came into consciousness about a lot of things during the 70s, especially music. And there was a lot of this stuff going on, okay? Prog rock concept albums about armadillo tank creatures, I kid you not. And there was a lot of bland singer-songwriter stuff, and there was the Osmond Family, and Muskrat Love, and Afternoon Delight. And it just didn't feel right. These were recessionary times. We lived under fear of, being blown up by the Soviets at any given moment. And the 70s were kind of dark and edgy. You had the Son of Sam killing people real close to where I live. You had blackouts. You were hearing more and more about terrorism and hijacked planes, and a lot of what you're hearing on the radio just didn't connect, right? So enter these guys and others of their ilk. And this was something I could immediately relate to because, these were not musical geniuses. They liked the same things that I liked as a young boy. Horror movies, World War II movies, comic books, getting the girl, doing things you probably shouldn't do, but you have your fun where you can get it, right? They spoke to me in a lot of ways that drew me into their music. Just their image alone, and the whole idea of punk rock and other bands like that. It was like, fuck the Captain and Tennille. We don't need this bullshit. And screw these pretentious, prog rock bands and these sappy, weepy singer-songwriter types. Give us something that speaks to what's really going on in the street. And that's the cultural or social identity factor that I'm talking about that gets you into certain kinds of music. Now, the other thing about the Ramones and bands like that is that they represented the spirit of rock and roll, like the original rock and roll, the stuff that I grew up listening to in my household. Like my dad was a greaser. He would listen to Chuck Berry, and he was a big Elvis guy, and doo-wop. And my mom listened to like all the 60s stuff, like the Phil Spector records and Motown. And she was also a big blues fan and things like that. And a lot of what you were hearing on the radio just didn't have that spirit anymore. And that was the usefulness of punk rock. It kind of brought all of that back, and then a lot of stuff developed from there. So anyway, I digress again. Let's get back to the topic at hand here. So maybe, and here's maybe the big conclusion for this episode, maybe what I'm actually doing with this YouTube channel and with the album that I'm about to release is creating that identity around my music that was missing. Now this is rock art. My daughter Victoria made this for me, and that is why I'm wearing the regalia that I'm wearing right now. It's not how I normally dress, but similarly. It's a persona, and I'm not trying to create an image that's false or anything. It's part of who I am, and the songs that I'm singing on this album are definitely part of what I am. They're very highly autobiographical, but I think they have a lot of interesting things to say that people can relate to, whether you care about me personally or care about New Jersey. There's something there that I think is universal, and I'm just being authentic. I'm being myself, and I think somehow once people discover that, they can relate to that. And in a way, I might be part of something bigger that's happening in the independent music scene, with the advent of AI and all of this mechanical and horrible music that's being made. I mean, even my daughters, they kind of acknowledge that, good music's good music, and a lot of it, from my era, they can relate to, and they can accept that yeah, this is good stuff. And they've got good music, too, in their generation, but it's harder to find. I mean, they go to clubs and they see live bands, musicians actually producing music. But if I can affiliate myself with that movement to keep real human music alive, music that is made through a person's hands and through their voice and through their heart and soul, it's a battle that needs to be fought, I think. Let AI, summarize documents for you and do all that other crap, and leave the art to humans where it belongs. So anyway, I'm going to continue to talk about my musical journey and what I've learned in the next episode. We're going to talk about playing live and why that didn't do it either. So hope you engage in the conversation. I hope you tune in next time. Over and out, and have a wonderful day, evening, or whatever. All right. Thank you, guys. Bye.